if you're not willing to fail and lose, then you can't win. No one's going to hit a home run on their first thing. And if you're not ready to like get slammed, if you put so many eggs in this basket, again, this goes through so many different tropes, but it's like, it's got to be about the journey, you know? But that's true. If you're so hell bent on being a success, but the journey isn't fun, then you're fucked.
Welcome to Rejection Rehab, the only podcast out there specifically designed to help you get over the fear of rejection and to build lasting confidence. Each week I interview a fascinating human being who's faced rejection, looked at it dead in the eye, overcome it, and built lasting confidence in the process. This week, it gives me huge pleasure to introduce you to Max Valverde. Max is a serial entrepreneur who was rejected on Shark Tank, but went on to co-found FareHarbor, a leading online booking platform that was acquired by Booking.com for a casual $250 million, which I'm sure Max took home a fair chunk of. He then went on to create Dad Bod Goes Pro, with the goal of converting his self-proclaimed dad bod into one of an Olympic athlete, training for the 2026 Winter Olympics in skimo, which is ski mountaineering, achieving 12th place in the US National Skimo Sprint Championships. He is the co-host of the parenting podcast Milkless. He's father to 3 great kids, husband to a lovely wife, Megan, but most importantly, he's a friend of mine. Max Valverde, welcome to the show.
Tom Flaherty, the Flazoo. Good to be here, man. Haven't seen you, or we chatted a couple years ago, but really good to be on here. Really excited to chat. Thanks for having me on, man.
My pleasure. It's so great to have you here. I mean, you have been through so much rejection in your life. I think let's just dive right into the big story of rejection in your life, which is you went on Shark Tank. You know, it's the show, if people haven't seen it, it's the show where entrepreneurs go on and they give their ideas to these sharks, these really successful business entrepreneurs, to try and get them to invest in their company. And you went on this and you were rejected. Please tell us this story. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll do the long story medium. And I think I'm outside the statute of limitations of the non-disclosure. I think it's been like 7 or 8 years.
Thank goodness. I want the goss. I want you to spill the tea.
So I'll spill as much as I am legally allowed to.
Okay.
So I had a job and I was like not super pumped about it. So I wanted to start a little company on the side. The product was, I really wanted to cure bedhead. It was just like a fun thing. I was in my 20s and I was like, I was trying towels and, putting stuff on my head and, trying to wet my hair, because I would wet my hair in the morning after showering at night, and it was just like not a good scene, just wet everywhere. My wife's like, dude. So I found this shower cap that was like a medical device like a shower cap that has a dry rinse, like no rinse shampoo stuff in it. Got in touch with the president of that company. They shipped me some for free. I slapped a sticker on it, did a Kickstarter, went viral, and then Shark Tank reaches out. Hey, we think you'd be great on Shark Tank. And I'm like,
they contacted you?
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Well, it was called Morninghead, and it was using sexual innuendo to.
And this was probably before ChatGPT could come up with inventive names for companies, right? You came up with that yourself.
Yeah, our mutual friend David Krupnick came up with it. I was going to call it Instaboss, and we're at SantaCon in New York City, and he's like, "Nope, you got to call it Morninghead. You owe me 0.001% of this company from now on." But
Did you give him that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of not really worth anything today, so, but he can have it. So it went viral. We used to be, the catchphrase was like, ask your girlfriend or wife to give you Morninghead. And if she slaps you, direct her to our website. So, that goes viral. Shark Tank's like, we think you'd be great. Come on. I'm like, Jesus, this is not my life's work, but I'm not going to not go on Shark Tank.
Obviously.
So go on. Long story short, it was an incredible experience. I was in the tank for like 54 minutes. They only cut it down to 8 minutes. It was fucking hilarious. Cuban was dying laughing. We were like, Cuban was being hilarious too. Like making jokes. Mark Cuban was like, Max, what's your wife think of Morninghead? Like we were riffing. It was great. Mr. Wonderful started actually crying at one point.
With laughter, I heard.
With laughter, yeah. And they had to touch up his makeup. It was like a great experience. And then did not get a deal. Came home, was super stoked about it. Threw a massive viewing party in Boston with 100 people.
Stoked even though you didn't get a deal?
Yeah, just like, it was a great experience and it was hilarious. And I thought they were going to be way more alpha than they were because of the TV edit. But like, I'm not going to say I was alpha, but I was kind of running the 54 minutes, and they were like peppering respectful questions, and they're just like true professionals. It was an incredible experience. I had so much fun, and I didn't tell a soul because I was so afraid of the contract. That was like, you can't tell a fucking word for like 7 or 8 years.
Oh, really? It's that long? Okay.
Yeah. Wow. And the contract does say that like, you can't like, they can do anything. It's like, it is truly real. The sharks do not know what's going on, but then, it's in TV. They're trying to like make a good story. In addition, it's something I shall say this later. So then we rented out a 100-person bar. It was this huge event. No one knew it was up. Everyone thought I got this like massive deal. I was so stoked. I was expecting, Cuban tweets that morning, I cannot believe this made it to air. This is going to be the most outrageous episode that's ever been on Shark Tank. And it comes on and it's not funny. They cut all the jokes, which I mean, it's ABC Family. It makes sense. Like I would have done it if I was in their shoes. And instead they took all the laughter and Mr. Wonderful wiping tears from his eyes about as if they were like laughing about the product. So when I'd be like, hey guys, here's the product, they'd be like, like, so the bar was fucking quiet, 120 friends. And I had to stand up after. I'm like, yo, it's cool, guys. Like, it's not that bad. Like, but I couldn't say like, it didn't really go like that. But like, yes, I didn't get a deal, but it was actually a very positive experience. And like Cuban was like, Max, he didn't say fucking, but Max, I love you. I would love to work with you on something else. Just, this isn't my cup of tea. I ended up talking with Cuban a year later about FareHarbor. Okay. And we met for 2 hours at the Ritz-Carlton in Boston, and like we jammed. So like, I don't know. So it got totally slammed on there, but like, I don't know, getting into rejection, if you want to, go deep into that, I don't know. I just never dwell on it. Just immediately you just pivot into the next sort of thing. And I was like, sick. The website's getting 15,000 views. We're cranking. We're selling product. We sold like 50,000 units. Like, okay, I was able to quit my normal job. Morninghead was now bringing in $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year. Sick. Like, I can now become a full-time entrepreneur. Like, I don't know. Like,
I mean, so that's incredible because so not only were you rejected by the Sharks, they didn't give you a deal. And then the episode itself was basically almost made a mockery of you, it seems.
Oh, totally.
And your product. But then you just kind of let that like sort of water off a duck's back. And actually, I'm going to focus on the positives here, which, you do get exposure regardless of whether your product is, invested in by the Sharks or not. You get exposure and you saw the benefits of that. And I think that's a really, really great lesson to learn is that, I was talking in my previous podcast about rejection just actually being redirection. Even if you don't know it in the moment, why is this rejection happening to me? And you've kind of redirected that rejection into, okay, actually, let's look at the successes that came from that, which is, I think, a hugely powerful way of dealing with rejection. But I want to go back a little bit because, I've said this on my podcast before. You're not born with a fear of rejection. You're also not born hugely confident. How did you, become so confident? You're one of these people that my friends and I, we look at you and we think you're not scared of failure. You're not scared of rejection. You're hugely confident. How did you become like that? And can you tell us maybe some of the stories of rejection from when you were like a kid? Because I feel as though getting used to that rejection, which you clearly are if you can get rejected on Shark Tank like that and be like water off a duck's back. Tell us like how this actually happened throughout your life.
Yeah, I think like it starts, I've been looking at it through the parenting lens a lot because of the Milkless podcast that I do with another one of our mutual friends, Matt Naylor. I think it starts with secure attachment and making sure you are worthy of love. Like, if your parents like are supportive, tell you they love you and stuff, like a lot. Like, so I had that going for me. But then you kind of start to build your own like little internal ethos that like, I don't know. And I've sort of changed because I've gotten more into meditation and not being so excited about outcomes in the future. So my highs aren't as high and, you know, like whatever, but I kind of like that. We can get into that in the future in a little bit. But I think like when I was a kid, I remember I ran for class president in high school, got slammed because me and Sarah Levesque split the fucking vote. Like we were the two G's and, split the vote. Ben Jackson won, and Ben Jackson was the kind of counter candidate. It was like, fuck all this shit, fucking Max and Sarah's fucking whatevers. I'm gonna get a vending machine and the whatever, and then he never showed up to any meetings but he won because Sarah and I split the normal vote. He counterculture, man. But anyway. Then came back and like ran senior year and Sarah, I let Sarah go for president. I got secretary, you know, no pride of ownership here. But so like, I don't know, just thinking that like somewhere along the line, you hear like a quote or someone saying like, you know, you miss 100% of the things you don't take or whatever. And it's just like getting comfortable with the thought of rejection, like knowing that there's a chance of losing. But I don't know. I'm just like a romantic. I love the movie Rudy. I love like underdog stories. So it's like you can't be an underdog story if you're not willing to get your ass slammed. Like you have to, and that's what we strangely gives the success power and makes success at all because you were willing to risk it. Like, and then, you know, if you listen to stuff about, you know, entrepreneurs like this exact episode, you'll hear what happens in the future. And it's like, well, you know, she got slammed 4 times before she made her big success. It's like, so you got to know that that's part of the journey. And like, there's also another company in there before Morninghead that I started with one of our really good friends, Simon Salgado, called Naked Shell, that never sold $1 of stuff.
This is crazy. He's literally my best friend, and I didn't even know about this company.
Yeah, it was called Naked Shell. It was get for like the back of phones and stuff. But anyway, so get in the theory, and then we can even hit Naked Shell. Is like if you're not willing to fail and lose, then you can't win. Like I could, you know, obviously hindsight's 20/20, but I could go through Naked Shell, the things I learned about creating a website, you know, drop shipping, direct to consumer, conversion rate optimization, Google Analytics. Boom, that goes right into Morninghead. Now I'm poised. Oh, Kickstarter comes out. I know how to operate Reddit. I know how to operate Kickstarter. I know how to make videos. Okay, cool. Morninghead goes viral. Boom. Then I go into FareHarbor, like understanding conversion rate optimization, all this stuff. It all builds. I don't know if I would have been able to do FareHarbor as well as I did if I hadn't done the Naked Shell and the Morninghead conversion rate optimization stuff, because that's what we did for tour and activity operators, was growing their website. So like, it's weird. Like if you don't have the failures on the way, no one's going to hit a home run on their first thing. So if you're not,
it's probably luck.
Right. And if you're not ready to like get slammed, if you put so many eggs in this basket, again, this goes through so many different tropes, but it's like, it's got to be about the journey, Tom, you know? But that's true. If you're so hell-bent on being a success, but the journey isn't fun, then you're fucked. Like you're just trying to you're so obsessed with money or success or status, as opposed to like, do you like being in the lab, jamming, making, creating, building, putting stuff out, selling? Oh, that's so fun to be in like those early stages. That's so fun. If that's not fun, then what the hell's the point of this? You know, like it's not worth it.
Absolutely. I mean, you spend most of your waking hours working, and if you're not enjoying the journey, regardless of outcome, pretty pointless. But I really like what you did there. You basically just the rejection and failure, you just learned from that, and then you focused on the success, and you took the rejection and failure and the things that you learned from that, and you basically drove that into, you know, the next chapter of your life and used them to propel your next adventure, which I think everyone can really take a page out of your book and learn from. I think that's absolutely incredible. I want to talk a little bit. We'll get back to maybe like what happened to Morninghead, you know, at the end of the podcast. But, you know, let's get on to a major success of yours. I mean, you are an incredibly successful guy. You went on to co-found FareHarbor, a booking platform, which Booking.com then bought eventually for $250 million. Let's talk about that. You went from being rejected on Shark Tank, rejected for class president back in high school, a lot of rejection, and then you had this massive success. Please tell us this story.
Well, so it actually dovetails right in with the end of Morninghead. So Morninghead was my first way of trying to become, like, quote, wealthy in the eyes of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If your assets are greater than your income. So what I did, my wife and I were married. You know, Megan, we were married for like a few years. And I really wanted to quit my job for like many years and start something.
What was your job at that time?
I worked for MSeal Joint Systems. I was the international sales manager for a construction company. I worked there for 7 years. And it was like one of those things where, like, kind of semi-golden handcuffs. I was making over $100,000 a year, or right around $100,000 a year as like a 26-year-old. And it's like, what's your fucking problem, man? This is like 2006, 2008, 2009. You're making $100,000, like. And I was like, but I just don't feel fulfilled. Like, I need to do something different and bigger. And so I asked my wife, who's very pragmatic, I was like, I got to quit my job. She's like, abso-fucking-lutely not. So then I used all my commission checks, everything. I paid down both of our student loans, paid down both of our cars. I put in a new heating system in the house myself, mini splits. I got our monthly expenses down $2,500. I paid off, I think, her grad school loans.
Because she's a nurse, right?
Yeah, she was becoming a nurse practitioner.
Yeah,
so then, with her income and then Morninghead's income, right at around Shark Tank, I projected that, like, I could, quote, kind of like quit or like retire, and we had, with her salary and Morninghead bringing in like projected like $40K a year minimum, we could do it. So I quit my job right after Shark Tank airs. And then another one of our friends from school, Lawrence Hester, my best buddy from college, had started this company. I had been kind of on the phone with him and his brother for the first like year that they started this company, because I'm like the sales friend who knows sales. So sometimes before they'd go into a big meeting, they'd be like, hey, what do you think we do here? And, so I'd give him some tips and stuff like that. And then he comes out and he's just like, hey, do you want to come on a sales call with me? I'm trying to, close this parasail company in the Cape. And we were in Boston. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I come on the call, and it's a parasail company. And this is where the Morninghead thing comes in, because I was obsessed with conversion rate optimization, click-through rates, online booking, or online, sales, basically. So we look at this parasail company, and the sale had been previously all about the features of the product. Like, this is an online booking platform for tour and activity operators. And so I'm meeting with this parasail guy, and Lawrence introduces me like, yeah, this is my friend Max from college. He's just going to sit in. And then we start going, and I start digging into his business. I'm like, yo, tell me about this. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Let me check out this website. Okay, you know what I might do on this website? I started giving advice on the website. And then Lawrence is like, yeah, so Max is actually like our Massachusetts sales rep. So if you want to actually chat with him from now on, and then we keep going. And then I'm like, you know what I might do is actually on this website, your book now button is not centrally located. When I click book, blah, blah, what we can do is we can set you up with this or that. By the end, Lawrence is like, yeah, so Max is our like regional mainland sales director, because the company was was based in Hawaii. And on the drive back, he's like, dude, you should. And I'm like, dude, I think I can. Because with Morninghead, I had kind of quit my job. So I had freedom of time and place. I was like now at that point a full-time technically entrepreneur for like a month. And I was like, dude, I'll join on for no salary. And I joined on for no salary for and I didn't get paid for 9 months.
No salary, but commission? Did you ask for commission?
No, zero. I'm just like, because I felt like they had started the company. I was kind of like a late stage co-founder. I'm going to help grow the sales org. And it's like, I felt like I wanted to put in as much sacrifice as Lawrence and his brother had. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to get paid. I had a wife and we were trying to have a baby, and I'm like, but I can do this now. I don't need to be paid. So it was a very natural thing for me to like join on. And then long story short, fast forward, 3 years later, we had 300 employees, anywhere from 30 to 50 million in revenue, didn't take official VC. And we sold the booking and then we moved to Amsterdam for a lockup agreement. I became CEO at that point, and we grew to 600 employees and multi-language, multi-currency. And it's hands down the largest tour activity software in the world by like a factor of like 100.
So that's it. And I think, you'll do better at explaining what it is in a nutshell. But basically, if you go somewhere and you want to book, go out on a boat or something in Hawaii, it's the software behind booking that, right? Yeah.
Any whale watchers, walking tours, Segway tours, downhill mountain biking, river tubing, snow tubing, food tour. Most people who are listening to this if you've done any of those things, you booked with this platform. These software companies these like activity companies get their website made by FareHarbor. It's the online booking portal. It's sometimes employee scheduling. It's like their entire source of truth. And so the whole pitch became around conversion rate optimization of the tour operators. Because it's like, wait a minute, this parasail company, we can double your business. Because activity companies it's a semi-luxury good on a vacation. It's like, well, should we do this parasailing thing or should we just go to the beach? If the online booking isn't clean as fuck, they're not going to do it. So because of the Morninghead I was so obsessed with conversion rate optimization, we just applied that, and our entire sales pitch came around that because we could actually double all these businesses. So we doubled their businesses. They loved us. And then so all the sales team, by the time we sold, we had like 70 sales reps. It was like my little boiler room, like Wolf of Wall Street without the strippers and drugs and sex and stuff. But 50% women sales reps. We were just jamming on the phones. It was like crazy. We were sending like 10,000 phone calls out into the market a week.
And that's incredible. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and it was just super fun but it's not like, okay, you have a big success there. But it doesn't change the fact that like you got to be willing to take your punches and get slammed. Sometimes we lose accounts. That's what sales is.
Yeah, and even Lawrence himself, I remember he was starting, I think it was a crouton business before he got into FareHarbor. Am I right with that?
Yeah, he had Emmy's croutons. They were fucking delicious, but
didn't
he
really
got slammed.
Yeah,
it's like, but I don't know. So that like I think pushed him into tech because it's like, man, perishable goods, hard to scale.
Yeah, hard to scale. What do you say to people who? Because you took such a big risk because you quit your job, which is steady income. You did. It seems like you were pretty logical in the way that you calculated the amount of money you had and so on. But what do you say to those people out there who are just super scared about potentially just failing, getting rejected if they quit their job and just end up chasing their dreams, which is what you ended up doing? You basically, yours is a fairy tale story. Quit your job, do the thing you actually want to do.
Yes and no, but like if you watch the movie, there is no movie, but if there was a movie, there's the montage of the 2.5 years working at a job where I wasn't super happy, making commission checks and paying down all of our expenses, setting it up so that, like, on the one hand, I present as like a manic serial co-founder or serial entrepreneur who's like, all gas. But I have just as much break. And my wife is break. So it's like, I didn't actually take a risk. Like I here's the thing. I did take a risk in the sense that like my earning potential, I cut it down shortly for a minute Like I was making, call it $100,000 a year, maybe 120. I cut that down to 35 or 40K a year with Morninghead. With that said, we could have lived like that forever. Like at the beginning of the book, 4-Hour Work Week with Tim Ferriss, there's the section on dreamlining. So write down all the things you want to do, be, and have. And I do this exercise all the time. I've added a thing to it, cross out the things you're doing for other people. So it's like, figure out what the fuck you want. And I realized what I wanted at that time was to hang out with my wife, go to the farmer's market on the weekend, buy some good food, cook some good stuff, go mountain biking for 40 minutes a day, wake up, read the newspaper and eat eggs. I don't read really or have a newspaper, but I just picture that. My dad used to read the newspaper. So I was like, okay, sun comes up, I'm reading the newspaper, I eat some sunny side up eggs, talk with my wife, have a great coffee, go out for a mountain bike ride, work on an entrepreneurial project for a few hours, go to the farmer's market, buy some produce, cook with my wife, and have a great dinner. I could die. That was before we had kids. Now kids are like very important to me. But like, okay, cool. So let's work to get to that life. And that was Morninghead. I was ready to be done and just do little side hustles. I was going to be happy. It was not about making millions of dollars. That was just opportunistic because my friend Lawrence was like, hey, you want to fucking work on something fun? I'm like, yeah, now I can, because I can do whatever the fuck I want. And then that's how we made the big company. But it wasn't like that typical entrepreneur is like, you see the movie and it's like, he's taken such a big risk. He's got 2 months of runway. If he doesn't close this deal, I could have worked for no money indefinitely because I was technically retired and wealthy on a $35,000 a year salary because I had got our expenses, our assets above our expenses.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? It's getting your assets above your expenses, and you don't have to be a multi-millionaire to do that. Anyone can right. do that with the right strategy. Okay, I want to pivot a little bit to to one of your next adventures and great successes off the back of facing a lot of rejection in your life, and it's Dad Bod Goes Pro. And for those of you who haven't followed Max's Dad Bod Goes Pro story, he'll tell it in a lot of detail, but in a nutshell, at 39 years old, he decided he wanted to train for the 2026 Winter Olympics in skimo, ski mountaineering, and change his self-proclaimed dad bod into an Olympic athlete's bod. And he did end up coming 12th in the National Sprint Skimo Championships in the US. But Max, first of all, what on earth inspired you to be like 39 years old, I want to become an Olympian? Because that is near impossible for most people. And tell us how the whole thing went.
Well, it's really, again, it's less about the end goal. And I have a quick story as to why that's the case. It's not about the making it to the Olympics. It's more just very similar to Morninghead to FareHarbor. And then now this is FareHarbor to Dad Bod, in the sense that like I was just it was a cool opportunity. So after selling the company, we had a 3-year lockup agreement in Amsterdam. After that, my wife and I, we have 3 kids. We had 3 kids. We moved to Park City, Utah, primarily for the mountain biking. So my wife and I are big mountain bikers. That's what we did, because it's like incredible for the biking. Then I started hearing about this new sport. It's not even new, but it was new to me. Ski touring, where I knew that there was like backcountry skiing, but then they're like, yeah, you can go uphill in bounds like on the ski mountain in the morning. And I was like, oh, cool. And I'm not typically a fit guy like you and Simon and all you guys are like fit people. I was like an athlete. I played rugby. I'm like, I could dunk in high school. Like I played sports, but my natural state is probably a 450 pound man. Like I like playing sports. I also like watching TV and eating. But so I was like, I was a little soft. I'm like 6 feet tall and I was like, 200 pounds, maybe 205, not a ton of muscle. So I was like a little soft. But then I start going uphill a lot with some friends, and I'm like, man, this is so fun. And then I hear skimo, which is ski mountaineering, is going to be in the Olympics in 2026. I'm like, damn, that is like so cool. And so it's like basically you walk uphill or run uphill with skis on your feet where your heels are loose so you can kind of walk. And there's something underneath the skis that's like basically one-way felt. So it's sticky on one side, so it sticks to the bottom of the ski, and then you can kind of walk up the mountain. There's some transitions where you actually take off the skis, put them on your backpack, continue running up. And I don't know, it just seemed like a cool thing to do. And I was like mountain biking, and I started the Milkless podcast. And then I just kind of got this weird idea that like, I heard about Niels van der Poel, who like shattered the speed skating world records for like, I think the 5,000 meter and the 1,000 meter or something, or maybe 500 meters and 1,000 meter. Basically, I think he was Swedish, and he just smashed them by doing zone 2 training. He trained for 2 years, like not skating, just like doing Tough Mudders and like, just like.
How old was he though?
He was like 30 or 29 or something.
Okay. So 10 years younger than you.
Yeah. But he showed that like high volume zone 2 training could really do some interesting stuff. I started reading about like, okay, after 40, you lose 1% of your maximum muscle volume potential. I'm like, bro, I am not near the top of the potential. And also, a lot of the people coming from the skimo world typically are long distance athletes, but what was going to be in the Olympics was a sprint, was a 3-minute, basically you sprint up to the torch of the Statue of Liberty and then ski down, all in 3 minutes. And so I was like, oh, I could kind of get behind that.
Not literally, obviously, just in case you're wondering.
Yeah, no, but that's the height.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. This is also an excuse to just play in the mountains every day. So my training was 4 hours a day of exercise and then some lifting. But like, so I'd wake up and then I'd find a route, and in the summer I'd mountain bike for 4 hours straight. And I would just bike all through the mountains and climb thousands of feet, and it was fun. And then in the winter, I would just set out on these long tours, and I would just, that's what backcountry skiing is called, like touring. So I'd just go out and do all this sort of stuff, and it was really fun. And then came the national championships. I'd been training for a year, and I got 12th in the country. You can see it on my Instagram and TikTok, like the recap. It was fun as hell. And then like I was like, okay, I'm still a minute off the top guy. And then I started really getting involved in the community. I joined the board of USA Skimo, because at that point I was now the largest skimo personality in the world on social media, because the TikTok had 45,000 views. There's millions of views, 45,000 followers. And so they're like, oh, can you help us get the word out about the sport? And then I started meeting all these young kids who are like, it's like, who the fuck am I? I'm just like now some like kind of like guy who can just do whatever he wants. And like, now I'm going to be the one that goes to the Olympics. It kind of started feeling a little weird the more I knew the community. Also, I wasn't like close. I got 12th in the country, but it was going to take a serious amount of like additional stuff. And then even just to make it to the Olympics, the US, I think, hasn't placed in the top 10 nationally. So even if you take the one spot from one of these young kids, it's like, it kind of felt like an asshole move. So I kind of just stopped my training, but there is an unbudgeted upside again, Tom, that you don't even know about. I'm going to be the NBC commentator for the Olympics.
Yes.
For skimo.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
So I started like commentating the national championships, and then I got put in touch with NBC, and I interviewed for it, and they made me like call last year's race, and they're like, let's fucking go. So it's like,
that's awesome. Oh, go ahead.
There's always something comes out the other side.
Right. So it's like, failure, rejection, and then actually redirection. Like you then were able to do something maybe even cooler because I'm certainly probably with a bit more longevity, because I feel like you can be a commentator for years and years and years, whereas athletes, your body kind of starts to break down, certainly at the Olympic level, a lot younger. One question I had that I think people might be interested in, I think when you start something and you have this goal, I think it's quite easy at the beginning to stay motivated, right? So as you know, I do quite a lot of triathlon. But after a while, the motivation can wane. I don't wake up every single day being like, oh my God, I can't wait to train. And I'd love to hear your perspective on that, because I personally think after a while, it's not actually motivation, it's discipline that continues you on the path. Yeah, you might have more motivation some days, less others, but when the novelty factor has gone away from training, and this can be in sport, this can be in a job, this can be in whatever, a relationship as well. How do you manage to keep going on those tough days? When you were training hours and hours and hours a day. And like I said, it doesn't have to just be for a sport, but in this particular instance it is. How did you keep motivating yourself and keep going when just the motivation perhaps wasn't even there?
Okay, great question. So, and I have a lot of thoughts on it. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. So basically a couple things. One, my coach said, have a goal, make a plan, forget the goal. So that was something, because I was always like wanting to see results, and so I live by that a lot. The other thing is, it can't be about the goal. And I know it's like, we're going to come back to the thing that I said earlier, like, it's got to be about the journey. But that is so true, that it's like, the reason I did the Dad Bod Goes Pro was not to make the Olympics, because people were like, isn't your dad like Peruvian? Can't you go for Peru? It's like, bro, I don't want to be a fucking joke. I like Peruvian, whatever, like sneak my way in. Like, I wanted to see what could actually happen. It was like a fun goal, but I wasn't one of those people who's like so obsessed. Like my family came first, number one. My kids didn't even really know I trained. I'd drop them off at school, pick them up at school. Like, kids came first, family came first. And it's like, really, it was truly about the journey. It was about, I really loved mountain biking and I really loved ski touring. It's kind of an excuse to just like do really awesome shit all day. So then I started like another little app side thing that's, kind of closing down a little bit, possibly. It might have some life breathed into it, but like an app called Citizens Cup that I started with a friend. The Milkless podcast was taking off. So I had that while Dad Bod Goes Pro was going on, I was training. So I got like a standing desk, and then for 4 hours a day, I'm like walking on the standing desk in zone 2. And then after like 3 weeks of this, usually my wife is the one who like helps me recognize this. She's like, dude, you okay? And I checked in and I was like, yeah, no. And this is not fun. Like, I don't give a fuck about the Olympics. The whole point was like, I wanted to mountain bike for 4 hours a day. So that's when I was like, that plus the meeting all the people in the industry. I was like, you know what, this is like, no one to hold them, no one to fold them. It has to be about the journey. Like, every day needs to be something that you like to do. Like, life is too short. Like, we're literally all going to be dead before you know it. And it's like, what is the fucking point?
Yeah,
to like going. Achieve something. Because also you hear the things, oh, you did it. The minute you do it, if it's not about the journey, then it's like, then what? What are you going to look at your little medal? You're going to like polish it every night? It's like, okay, now you got to find another thing to like, I will only be happy once this happens. So like, oh, this training, I got to train to do this thing. It needs to be more. And I'm trying to do it now. I just started working out again 3 weeks ago with a personal trainer. And like, what I'm trying to be is, instead of working towards getting jacked, which is normally what I do, I like rotate between 200 pounds and like 185. I'm either like shredded or like soft as hell. And I just rotate twice a year through that.
You're like a bear. You're like a bear that like fattens up during, like during, and then hibernates.
Right. But instead, I've been doing a lot of the Waking Up app with Sam Harris, like a lot of meditation. And there's these little mini 5-minute podcast things. And one of them was like, instead of like trying to go for these goals, just do something you can do today. And so what my thing is like, I just want to be a person who does strength training because I'm 41 and I don't want to be injured and stuff. Like, instead of like, I'm going to get fucking jacked for like this trip. Cause then the minute you're jacked, then it's like, okay, cheeseburger time. Let's just get massive again,
Yeah. And I think they talk about, I don't know if your coach talks about process goals versus like end goals. So like, it seems like, process is like during, you want to enjoy the process and have maybe a few goals throughout the process versus like the end goal. Like I want to like, achieve this in a race or whatever it is. And I think most successful people kind of have both. And going back to what you say about like enjoyment, you said, yeah, you weren't actually enjoying it at some point. And then you've got to think about, okay, well, why am I doing this if I'm not enjoying it? And I really think if you want to be successful in life, you have to find ways of doing that thing and making it fun. There's like, for example, in triathlon, which I do, you can be on the indoor bike trainer and sweat your guts out and be in the pain cave. Or you could take your bike outside and actually like enjoy it. And it might be annoying to get your bike outside. It might be annoying to get to the spot where you're going to cycle, but you'll get outside and you'll enjoy it more. Whether it's that, whether it's in a job, whether it's in a relationship, there are ways to kind of like maneuver yourself so that what you're doing is just more enjoyable. And then you're going to, the goal that's at the end of it all, like you're much more likely to achieve that goal if you're enjoying it along the way.
Right. Totally. And I think what's also important is like knowing yourself and doing a lot of self-reflection, like, and also going to therapy if that's something that you like. Like I have a really cool woman that I go with, and we just like walk around Park City, just like chatting about stuff like this. Like, why is it that I'm very much like you were saying, I'm very into motivation as opposed to discipline. Like, let's go, like get pumped up, like Olympics shit, like, and then going crazy about it and then doing absolutely nothing. It's like understanding that's because it's like life is a whole bunch of series of like understanding yourself and improving. Like, so knowing that about myself on this go round, I'm trying not to be so obsessed with the end state as opposed to, I know that about myself. And it's not just like, oh, what worked for Tom? Like you've always been fit and so you probably need different things than I need. I am a hibernating bear who puts on layers of fat. Like if you shot me you'd need a 50 caliber, you have to shoot me in the head if I'm charging at you. Like my body gets padding. But for me, it's like, okay, now in this go round, I'm going to try to just be the type of person that does strength. Because otherwise I know what will happen. I'll work out for 4 to 6 months. I will be fucking jacked. And then I'll get like sick for 1 week and then never work out again until I hit the 200-pound mark and start snoring again. And my wife's like, Megan's like, yeah,
You have to build it into a habit.
Yeah.
You have to build it into a habit. It has to become part of your life. And for that to happen, I think you have to have some semblance of enjoyment in it. Let's pivot a little bit to your podcast and your book and your book video series, because these are other, fantastic entrepreneurial successes that you've had. And, if there have been any, struggles along the way, I'd love to hear about them, especially with podcasting. You were actually one of the first people that I spoke to when I thought, okay, I want to do a podcast. And you gave me, the down low. And it's not easy starting a podcast. It's not easy getting a following. Like, I know that. I have like 115 people who follow me on Instagram right now. I'm hoping after this podcast it'll be more than that. But I'd love to hear just a little bit about that and how you've managed to kind of get through any setbacks and how you've made both a success. Yeah,
so it's the Milkless Podcast. It's a parenting podcast where we chat about how to become like better parents, but it's also pretty funny. And that's like the number one comment we get is like, oh, this is like really funny, and I feel like you guys are like my best friends. But we're also very honest about our foibles, and again, it kind of like dovetails in with like Rejection Rehab. Is like we're not astroturfing and like saying how awesome we are as dads. We both think we're pretty good dads, but we always like are talking about how fucking hard it is, like how we screamed at our kids. Like, how is it that like these 3 kids I would literally die for, I think about them all the time. I'm obsessed with them. And yet a good portion of the week, they're driving me fucking crazy. And I like want to scream at them. And it's like, that's a strange, like cognitive dissonance but we explore that. Matt, he's like very cerebral. I'm very like data oriented and kind of, wild. So it's like gone really well. We've got the social media going. We have a couple things on social media that have had like, millions of views, putting little posts out and stuff like that. In terms of like, I don't know, now in this part of my life, like it's not about success. Success is always an unbudgeted upside. It's more about, do I enjoy talking with Matt? And I do. And it's so fun. I look forward to it every time we record. That's why I agreed to do this podcast. Like, I like you and I think that you're interesting and fun. So it's like, if you were some slapdick idiot, I'd just be like, yeah, sorry, I'm busy, so it's like fun to do the podcast. So whatever happens is great. So in terms of the book, this is also a funny little opportunistic thing. My friend Matt Naylor, wrote this book a couple years ago. It was in a Google Doc. It's a kid's book. He always wanted to get it illustrated. And he sends it to me. I read it, blew my cock off. It was amazing. And I was like, okay, we got to make this a reality. And he's like, we looked into illustrators. It was going to be like 30 to 50 grand to get it illustrated. It's kind of like a 100-page, short chapter book, but we wanted to have a little picture on each page. Long story short, I looked into all the different AI tools out there. Then I illustrated it, or I created the images. Apologies, actual illustrators. I created the images on AI. That took me hundreds and hundreds of hours. Probably generated over 1 million images, and then photoshopped some of them, edited them. We put the book out to kind of start, putting really good content out for kids. It goes pretty well, sell a few hundred books. Then Caitlin Murray of Big Time Adulting, she's on Instagram. She's the funniest parenting person. She's our kind of idol. She has 1.8 million followers. We became friends with her. She goes on our podcast. We go on hers. Then she's we're like, hey, do you want to be the voice of it in this audiobook? She voices it. She's an incredible voice actress. It's a really good read. We get it mixed up with kind of like a radio show, with all this cool sound effects and music and, orchestra and real legit cinema stuff. Cause Matt is a movie guy. He's a 2-time Emmy nominated guy. He made TV shows.
He was only nominated. I won 2 Emmys. Just saying. Sorry.
Amazing.
Sorry. I hate to bring that up. Sorry.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. And so basically, then we just put it out 4 days ago. It's an hour-long video book that then we kind of animated some of the video, and now that's a new sort of medium we're trying, calm viewing, whereas modern kids shows have a cut every 1 to 2 seconds. It's literally being at a rave without ecstasy. A lot of kids shows boom, boom, boom. It's so overstimulating. When you have young kids and they watch TV, it's they're literally sucked into a fucking tractor beam. And yeah, it occupies them. But then prying them back to the real world, it's tough. So this video book is a way for kids to imagine. They can watch it. There is still a talking protagonist. We're showing pictures from the book. It looks like a movie, and our tagline is it plays like a movie but feels like a book. A lot of kids don't realize that it's anything different, but our cuts are every 14 to 19 seconds, and it's very story forward, and that's going well. That has 150,000 views as of this view. We just launched it less than a week ago. Hour long on YouTube, and the second one's coming out probably later this year. And
well, congratulations. I'm sure that there'll be some data out there showing that, it's much better for kids' brains if you don't have them going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, so frequently. And it probably, helps with concentration if they're looking at something with fewer cuts. And so, I'm sure that kind of stuff would help kids in the long run.
Yeah.
I always end this podcast with the same questions. So I really want to hear, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received, and what's the best piece of advice you've ever given? And it can be the same one if there's one that's good for business, one that's good for personal, it's okay. There's no limit, but we'd just love to hear that from you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's the best piece of advice. I know you gave me this question ahead of time, but I did not prepare for it. But like,
okay.
Here's something that I remember a lot. Some motivational speaker came to talk about entrepreneurship in my high school, and they said, when you grow up, you're going to work 40 hours a week. And if you think you want to start something, like you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to be able to work like probably 80 hours a week for at least a little bit of time. So you probably have an extra 40 hours a week to work on your side projects. And so that always was like rattling around in my head. And like when starting Naked Shell with Simon or Morninghead on my own, or these were all side hustles that I was doing because I would look at my week and it's like, well, I'm watching a lot of TV. Well, like my wife works nights. Like I can, let's see, smoke weed and watch The Matrix, or maybe just put in a 6-hour session, like solo, so that always was rattling around in my head. And that's how I started a lot of the side hustles. Another one that's like, I think it's a fucking awesome quote that Mark Cuban said to me was after it was on Shark Tank, we were going to take in some money, and Cuban kind of talked us. So then I asked Cuban if he wanted to invest, and he's like, let's meet up at the Ritz in Boston. The Mavs are playing the Celtics. So we met up. It was only supposed to be 45 minutes. We ended up talking for like almost 2 hours. We became like fast friends. It was like amazing. We were laughing, blah, blah, talking about FareHarbor, and he loved it. And he's like, don't take the money, dude. Vulture Capital. Like, you guys have a good thing going. And then he said, when you run with the elephants, they're the fast and they're the dead. So he was like, if you take it, you got to charge, because once you get all that extra capital on your books, on your balance sheet, you have to kind of spend it, and you have to scale up real fast. And your culture is pretty solid right now. If you were to go from 300 employees to 2,000, like overnight, to try to make that $1 billion company, you probably lose control of it. And so I like that quote because it's good imagery. Like, when you run with the elephants, they're the fast and they're the dead.
And from a guy who really knows what he's talking about as well, Mark Cuban. That's pretty impressive.
He was like such a smart, like, you sometimes you meet those kind of famous people and it's like, this person's just a fucking slapdick, like, idiot, but he was the real deal. Very insightful, very smart.
Good to know. It's good that you you absorbed his advice like a sponge, and I feel like it's one thing to hear advice, and it's another thing to like act upon it.
Yeah,
so
and then
congrats.
Yeah, thanks. And then the thing that I try to recommend to a lot of people is like, it's the thing I said earlier, modified from Tim Ferriss's Dreamlining plus something else, is like, I think everyone should do this like at least once a year, if not more. Is you need to write down the 5 things you want to do, 5 things you want to be, 5 things you want to have that are just like your dreams. And that would make you feel content in life. You could fucking die tomorrow. And like, whatever those things are. And then cross off the ones you're doing for other people. Like, I think a lot of times...
When you say cross off the ones you're doing for other people, does that mean you're doing stuff for other people that you don't want to be doing, cross them off and don't do them? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because you think that you want to do them, but either society or
Oh, you mean stuff that you're doing because other people, because you want to like impress other people?
Because I guarantee you will write things down. For example, when I did this exercise, it was like, what are the things I want to do, or something about. One of them was like stand-up comedy, because I used to do stand-up in college.
So did I.
Yeah, there we go. Stand-up comedy, playing guitar, starting companies, blah, blah, blah. So right after FareHarbor, I had a little bit of PTSD of running a big org like that. Like, I think when I stepped down as CEO, we had 550 employees. But like, on my list was, doing another company, because that's what everybody would say. Oh my God, Max, you're so good at sales and stuff. Like, you should do that. And it's like, oh, I should, because that's what everybody says. And it's like, wait a minute, I don't want to. Or like, Max, you should do stand-up comedy because you're so funny. And then I'm like, do I really enjoy that? Like, is that more just like seeking whatever? Whereas guitar, I could play guitar alone in solitary confinement for 20 years and sing to myself. And I fucking love that. And I don't need anybody for that. The thing is, comedy, it's like unfair to stand up comedy because you need to have an audience for that to work. But really, when I got down to it, I was like, the only reason I would like maybe want to do stand-up comedy again is just to prove to everyone that I'm fucking funny and that I can do it. And then it's like, but do I really enjoy the act, or is that some sort of semi-perverse seeking of? So I crossed that one off. That one's not. I crossed off starting another company. Like, I want to be with my family. I want to be with my kids. I want to talk to interesting people like you. I want to make content for kids in the form of Violet Archer. I want, like, you got to keep checking though, because every year it kind of, something you think you wanted, maybe it's different.
Yeah, maybe the motivation is like to impress other people rather than do I actually like it? Yeah, when I first heard you say like cross stuff that you're doing for other people, I was like, I thought you were talking about like volunteer work and doing stuff for other people. I was like, Max, we can't say that. No, but I get it. Oh,
good.
Now. Like,
thank you for the clarification.
Doing stuff for not for yourself, but for like validation from other people and so on. Yeah.
Or just society says that you need to do this.
Yeah.
Like some people don't want to have kids. You should have kids. That voice in their ear. Well, I think a lot of people don't spend the time thinking about what they actually want.
Yeah. Yeah,
and then they just think like, I need to have a better car. I need to have a bigger house. And it's like, for what? What is the amount of people in America who are over leveraged is just like, and then they're all stressed out because they don't have enough money because they needed that Lexus or something. It's just like, we're not spending the time thinking about what we actually need or want to be happy. It might just be eggs and a mountain bike ride and a fucking risotto.
I love it. All right, Max. So last two questions. What's your favorite book? What's your favorite movie and why?
Okay. Favorite book. I think is 4-Hour Workweek. I think that I read it a lot when I was like at my job and wasn't really having a ton of fun. And that kind of like was I audiobooked it a lot on my long drives. That became kind of a bit of a playbook for me in terms of how to think about your life and how to prioritize things, and really like that book. Favorite movie is, I think it's probably still, I can give you my top 3 or 5, but it's probably Braveheart still, since
classic.
I saw it late. Saw it in high school. I think it had come out 2 or 3 years before. Braveheart, Gladiator, Dead Poets Society, Rushmore, Rudy. Rudy could be number 2, actually.
It's a good list.
I wrote my college essay on it.
Oh, okay. Going back to 4-Hour Workweek, Tim Ferriss actually gave me a copy of the author. So the author, he gave me a copy of that book because I produced a segment for him when I was a producer on the Dr. Oz show. And please don't tell him this, and I hope he doesn't watch this, but I still haven't read it. So
oh my God.
I really do need to read it. Well, I mean, for me, it's just because I'm like, there's no way that you can do everything you need to do in 4 hours for your week. So like the concept to me is, and granted I haven't read it, but I just felt like it was a catchy title, but I haven't read it yet, so I will reserve.
No, but it's actually incredible. I haven't read it in like 10 years, but I probably audiobooked it like 4 or 5 times. Okay. But like there's so many cool things in it. Like for example, you know when you have a dentist appointment at 2:30, how do you get all your work done by 2? You just do. You just do.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's that all about? Like, what is that all about?
Ask a busy person. That's what they say. They'll be able to get it done, right? If you ask a busy person.
Yeah, but also just like putting, fake deadlines involved. Like sometimes, like yesterday, I made something that I think would have taken me 4 hours to make, but I had to pick up my daughter at camp in an hour, and I did it in an hour. And it's like, wait a minute, if I didn't have that thing, it would have taken me 4 hours, definitely. And I don't know, like, so if you set these sorts of things, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I don't know. I can't recommend it enough for.
Okay, fine. I'll read it. That's what I've got. The biggest thing for me that I've got from this podcast, aside from your incredible story, is to read 4-hour work.
Yeah, and cross off anything for other people, like serving, like fucking charity work. It's for fucking losers, Tom. Just kidding. No, that's on my list of things I want to do is more service. But man, you almost painted me into fucking.
I'm so glad
corner.
we clarified.
I almost got canceled.
That point. Listen, Max, I just want to say such a big thank you for coming on the show. It's been such a pleasure. You're such an inspirational guy, and you really are a story of rejection that has blossomed into huge success. And I really think it'll resonate with the audience. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Everybody, Max Valverde.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here.